Yo, what's going on, guys? Michael Jordan or the Copy Dog here, back again with another Overwatch League video. It's been a long minute. I'm sorry about that, just because of where I live right now, back with my parents until the end. Hopefully by the end of the month I'm out of here, but because I'm here, I don't have like the time or the place to record in peace and quiet to say, because everyone's super loud here, but no one's here right now as I'm recording this, and it's a video I do want to get out, and that is going to be my Overwatch League Season 3 season power rankings. So what I mean by season power rankings is I'm predicting where these teams are going to be at the end of the season. Right now, my power rankings going into these first 2 weeks would look a lot different, not a lot different, but would look somewhat different than what these season rankings are going to be. I'm just predicting this based off of what teams will collapse mid-season, what teams will rise mid-season, what teams are going to get better because of late pickups or stuff like that. That's just a prediction. And this is all for fun. This is my opinion. You can disagree with it. I'm perfectly fine with that. It is biased, but I mean, so are just about every single power ranking. So without further ado, let's hop right into it. At number 20, the team that I predict is going to be the worst and end up 20th in the Overwatch League Season 3 season is the Houston Outlaws. Now, this is a weird one to say. I do like the pickups that they made. I like Rappel. I like Meko. I actually I don't like a lot of them. Jeskse was like a little questionable. Then you have Hydration and Blase, who are identically the same player in terms of what they play. And like they're both sort of quiet. Blase is more of a leader though, and Hydration is just like the silent killer. But it's like that doesn't do anything for this roster. You have Meko, Jeskse, and Rappel, players that have never played with a mixed roster. And then you have washed up players like Muma, like Linkser, and it's just a combo that I like. Like, I think Houston did good for what they had, but it's still not going to be good enough. And I think this team is going to have a lot of early struggles in terms of how they play. I don't think they're going to be good at all. Maybe until the end of the season. Maybe this team will be good in hero pools, but I don't think they will. I just think they have like some good pieces. Like I think Meko, Hydration, Repel are good, and then the rest are just like average and like sort of below average at that. So I just don't think this team is going to work together at all, and I think they're going to end 20th this season. But if they do make more changes in season 4, then I think they can be good, especially if they get their Korean players to have more time to learn English. But for now, I think they're going to end up last, which hurts to say, but I think it's going to happen. At number 19, I have the Dallas Fuel. Now, this is another team that made good changes like on paper, but at the same time, I don't think it's going to be good enough, and I think some of these other teams just improved drastically, right? So I know that people are going to see where's Boston. I'll get to them later. But like for right now, I think Doha and Decay are pretty talented players. I think Crimzo Closer is going to be a decent support duo, average. And then where I have this biggest issue is the Gamsu Note tank line. Now, I know people rate Gamsu highly, and that's because of his leadership. He's a great leader. He's helped a lot of teams turn around. But the thing with Gamsu is if you compare him to some of the other main tanks in this league, I don't think he holds up. I think Gamsu is only rated because of his leadership, and he's a good player, but I don't consider him even a top 10 main tank, maybe even top 15. Like he's good for his leadership. But right now, I think Dallas could have used an incredibly talented main tank over a leader. Even though a leader will help them in the long run, I think, especially since you have Note, who's just bad at the game, you need an incredibly talented main tank, which they could have bought, because they've spent $450,000 on Gamsu, right? And there's better main tanks in Korea, right? That are like in contenders that they could have spent less money on and like gotten another off tank, and then boom, you have a crazy roster, right? It's just, I feel like Dallas could have done better, and they didn't, and that's what makes me mad. I think they could have done so much more, but they did decent. I will admit that. I think they did decent, but I don't think it's going to work out this season. Now, at number 18, I have the Paris Eternal. Now, I think that this team is going to be near the bottom for a little bit until Sparkle becomes eligible. It's going to be too late. We all know this. We all could see it coming. Sparkle is like the young prodigy, the person that's going to save this team, but it's going to be too late, and they're already most likely going to be out of playoff contention. So I think Paris knew this coming in, and I think they're going to be fine with that. But I think even then, the team is still decent, I guess. I mean, their support line, I would say, is probably the weakest part. I like Hefty God, but I don't think he's going to be like the standout player they need. He's a Lucio player, you know? So you have FD God Hip, which is average, and then said Cruz and Gray, also average. I think still bottom 8-7 support duos if you look at it on paper. I think Soon is good. I think Zai is going to be all right. I don't rate Nico at all. Sparkle is going to be insane. Hanbin is going to be pretty good. But I think their main tank problem is incredibly... they picked up No Smite. Like, why'd you pick up No Smite? You could have done better. And then they also got Ben Best. So I think this team is perfectly fine being completely bad this season. I think they know this, right? Because if you're making an investment into a player like Sparkle, you're doing it for the long run. Kind of like how Shock did it in Season 1 with Sinatra and Super. They're doing this for the long run. So I respect the move. I think it'll work out for them next season. But for now, I just don't think they're going to be good enough. Now, at number 17, it's the team everyone thought was going to be at the beginning. It's the Boston Uprising. Now, I can see why people hate this team, right? On paper, it's just not good, right? But I think this is going to be the chance where Huck might have done it again. Listen, he got Myunbong, who's actually insane, right? If he was on a good team, he could be a Rookie of the Year candidate. You got Swimmer, who's going to be all right. I think Bruson's going to be underrated. I think if you run Axiom, because Axiom is a lot better than Fusions. Unfortunately, Fusions has that leadership. Kind of like going back to the Gamsu thing. Gamsu's a good leader, not a good player. Or Gamsu's a good player, but like not amazing, right? Fusions is a good leader, just not a good player. I think running Axiom would be better for them. And I'm putting him here because I do believe they will run Axiom. And then I think Munchkin is going to be underrated. And I also think either Color Hex or Jerry, or I think Jerry might just be like the bright spot, right? The person we never saw coming. Even then, I still put him in the bottom. I don't think they're going to do their Season 1 thing, but I think they're going to do a lot better than what people are rating him. So that's why I have him at number 17. This one is the one that I will say y'all can hate me on, but I can see it. I can see a world where Boston aren't in the bottom 3. At number 16, we have the Toronto Defiant. Now, my problem with Toronto Defiant is Beast. Can I single it out on one player? I don't think I can. I don't think that's fair. But Beast is a problem. We have to address it. The guy hasn't played on Fusion Uni because people are like, oh, he played on Fusion Uni. He was benched for a Korean for a while, right? And then you also have Nevix, who's incredibly unproven. I'm on the Nevix side train. I really like this team. Like, as a fan, I like Toronto, but Nevix is getting way overhyped. I think he's not going to live up to it. I think Calix is going to falter. I think Kareev is just going to do all right / above average. And I think their also another problem is agilities and their flex DPS. Because right now they have Sureforward Logics, who are basically playing the same thing, that hit Scanish role. And then you have agilities. And agilities, like, this might be a little biased, but I do not think the guy is good at all. I don't think he's Overwatch League material. And, like, or maybe bottom of the pack Overwatch League material. And look, he's on Toronto, which I think will be a bottom of the pack team. I don't rate this team at all. I don't think they're going to do good. But even then, I'm still happy that they made the changes because it's a team that people will support. I will support this team, but I don't think they're going to do good. At number 15, we have the London Spitfire. Now, London, it sucks to see that roster completely fell apart and just got destroyed and dismantled and just got ripped from the inside out by Seoul Dynasty, and then just players just leaving. I think London are still going to be good, though. They have a lot of unknown talent, and I think they did better than Boston in terms of unknown talent because they have like players like J-Mac, Glister is going to be good, Hyusu is going to be good, they have Krillin, they have Bernard and Fuse. That sounds like a decent roster on paper, and it could actually even be higher. I don't think they'll be higher, but I think they have that underrated talent that'll make them good. Listen, London have absolutely zero expectations this season. Let's be honest. Everyone doesn't think they're going to be good, and I think because of those no expectations, it's going to elevate the roster to do better. Also, they have a 12-man roster. They have a ton of backup in case something happens. I like the roster. Could they have done better? Maybe. But, like, at the same time, I like this approach to the roster. They're building for the future. They're building a team that can develop and can be a good team over time. They just need the experience. And I think, like, players like Bernard, J-Mac, that could be a deadly tank duo in, like, a year or something, right? Glister is just going to be Glister. He's going to be insane. Krillin, we'll have to see the guy. But I have high hopes for London. And for my high hopes, that's them being in 15. So hopefully they live up to those expectations. But I'm actually excited to watch this roster. And I'd be more excited to watch this roster over their old one. At number 14, we have the Washington Justice. Now, before, I had this team a little bit higher. I had them around the 11th, 10th spot. And then the more I thought about it, the more just mistakes I've seen. First off, they're one of the few teams that are only running with 8 players into this season. And this season is going to be hectic, to say the least, for some of these teams. These teams have to travel so much, right? And the fact that Justice have no backup supports, first off, scares me. Let's say Aim God has another tangent where he's like, I want to play with Koreans and stuff. Who are you going to play? You're going to play Stratus on flex support? We already saw that, and it wasn't that good. And then if one of them even gets sick in the slightest, you're screwed, right? And then we get to the tank situation. We have Elivote, who I have high hopes for Elivote. Actually, I really like Elivote. But Lulsish and Roar is mad questionable. I don't think they'll be that good. And then you go to Corey. Corey will be... It's Corey, right? He should have been the World Cup MVP. He was robbed by Sinatra. That's fine, but Corey is actually insane. But then you put him next to Stratus and Tuba. It's like they're Stratus was all right last season, but he was only good on May, and we haven't seen anything. And Asfara was good in his. Okay, well I guess Stratus is like an average player, but Tuba's unproven. But it's like this team doesn't have any backup plan, and that's what scares me. And that's why I think they're going to fall. At number 13, I have the Los Angeles Valiant. Now, before, like if you had talked to me a week ago and asked me where I'd put this roster, I'd put them around the 18-17 spot. But this roster has grown on me the more and more I think about it. I think Rain was unproven last season. I think he only got benched for Chris because, again, leadership. And I think Florida Mayhem valued that a lot. And then you have Lastro, who I think is going to be a star, or not like a star, but I think he's actually going to be pretty good. And then you have McGravy, another somewhat unproven player. He looked good when he played. You have Gig and Dreamer. I think Gig is going to be the starter there. Why would they pick him up that late in the season? I think Gig is going to be solid. I did a stream a while ago where I did underrate, or if I was to make a budget Valiant roster, what would I pick up? And Gig was on there because I think Gig is a good player for just a cheap price. I think he'll do like all right. And then you get to the DPS on this team, and let's just take Apply out of it. I'm not including Apply in this. Apply is all right, but he's not going to get playtime. You have Shax, KSF, and KSP. That's low-key a nutty DPS trio. I highly rate Shax, I highly rate KSP, and I highly rate KSF. I think this roster, with just those three alone, is a very good roster. If only they spent more money on this other parts of it, they could be a top 10, maybe top 8 team. But because they went the budget route, I think they're going to be 13th. I think they're going to barely miss playoffs. But another thing with this team is they're another one of the teams with zero expectations. No one expects anything of this roster. And I think because they're all friends, they all get along with each other, it's going to work out for them. So that's why I have them here. At number 12, I have the Florida Mayhem. Wow. It feels good to say Florida Mayhem and not number 20. Am I right? So Florida Mayhem, they made the upgrades that I personally wanted them to. I wanted them to upgrade Byram. They got Gangnam Jim, who's another incredibly talented player. I wanted them to get a flex DPS that won't be a star per se, but is incredibly flexible and can cover every hero Saya player might not be comfortable on. And they got Yaki. And Yaki is that player. He's a projectile player. He can play most of the DPS heroes at a consistent level. He might not be the star of the team, but he will do good on the DPS. And that's what I want. I don't want a star DPS next to Saya player. I just want a good DPS. Not one that feeds, but one that gets the job done. Kind of like a Libero. I wanted like a Libero. And I think Yaki is somewhat comparable to Libero in my eyes. And then you have Saya player who's just going to pop heads. You have Carrion and Fate, who are two very solid main tanks. And then you have Gargoyle, who I'm super high on. I think Gargoyle will do fantastic, especially with hero bans. He might not have to be on. I think Diva is one of his weaker ones, but his Hog, his Zarya, probably other off tanks are very good. I'm excited to watch this team, and I think they're going to actually surprise people. At number 11, I have the Chengdu Hunters. Now, with Chengdu, I think it's going to be the Leave Jinmu show. I think these two DPS are going to carry this team so hard. I think Molly is going to be a very underrated flex support. I think Yveltal is just going to do all right like he always was. I never rated Yveltal high, but I never rated him low either. I think he even was like a mid-tier support. I think the biggest problem with this team is the main tank situation. Now, we can all say we love Ameng, right? The Yoda Chad, but he's really only proven himself on Ball and Rhine. He can't play Monkey. His Orisa was not that good. And who knows if let's say Ball's taken out 1 week for hero bans, then you have to consider that what will this team do? I don't rate a Ting that highly, but again, it's in China. I didn't really watch Chinese contenders. I'm not going to come out and say that. No one watches Chinese contenders. But even then, it's like, I think the roster will be good, and I think they can live in the chaos of hero bans, and that's why I don't have them lower. Because I want to put this roster lower, because I think others are better, but I think hero bans, besides if the Wrecking Ball was banned, I think hero bans will help this team a lot, seeing as they were one of the most chaotic teams of Season 2. Because they were the ones creating Chaos Season 2, and I think with hero bans, they can create even more in Season 3. At number 10, I have the Hangzhou Spark. Now, I want to put this roster higher, but I think this roster situation is going to be they're good at the beginning, and then they're going to fall over time, and they're going to end up in 10th. I can see them as like a top 6 team right now, and then it's just like, it's going to go down and down and down and down, and then you're all the way at the bottom, right? I think the team has synergy, but it's like, is it good synergy? I think the DPS situation is incredibly scary on this team in terms of like how good they are. Godspeed, a lot of people rate him, but I thought he was just average at best on DPS. His Reaper was just all right, and that's pretty much all he played. So it's like, can we even judge more than that? He was a Reaper Zarya player. He was better on Zarya than Reaper. And then you have Adora, who was the Brigitte one trick. Then you have Bozzy, who played like all right on Doomfist, right? And then that's just it. I don't think these DPS are good at all. Like, I rate Valiant's DPS over these guys. I rate Hunter's DPS. I rate Mayhem's DPS. I rate even Justice's DPS over these guys, right? I don't think the DPS are good. I think the saving grace for this team is Gushui and Rhea. Those two are insane. And then it's also the part where I think Bebe is not that good, but Coldest is better. But if you were to incorporate Coldest into the roster, then that's even more time that you're going to have to build more synergy with a new Chinese flex support. So overall, I just don't think it's going to work out for Hangzhou Spark, and that's why I have him at 10. At number 9, I have the Seoul Dynasty. Now, this is a team where I wish they didn't trade Fleta away. Fleta Prophet just sounds like mucho buen material. But even then, I think the roster is going to be good. Fitz is pretty underrated. I think Fitz will do all right. You have Prophet. That's just Prophet. Like, what more can I say about the guy that hasn't been said already? I think Marvel is incredibly good. I think Michelle is good as well. Somewhat questionable, but I think Michelle will do all right. Gesture is, for some reason there, I think Marvel's better than Gesture at every hero but Winston. I think Marvel's Orisa, Sigma, Reinhardt, Monkey, or not Monkey. I think all of his characters, main tank characters, are better than Gesture besides on Winston. I don't know why they picked up Gesture. And then you come to the support situation with Toby. Toby's going to be all right. You have Creative, who's incredibly unproven. And then you have Bedosian, which, again, why did you pick this guy up? And it's also crazy that they could have not traded Fleta, right? They could have picked up Glister from their academy team. They could have picked up some other support. They could have picked up like a Myeonbong, right? Or a Gangnam Jin, but they didn't. They stuck with creative. And I don't think it's going to be that good. I think they're going to be all right, but it's just going to be profit keeping them at ninth. At number 8, I have the Guangzhou Charge. Now, I'm a Charge fan, and I think this is an absolutely fair place to put them. I, as a fan, want to put them higher, but I have realistic expectations for this team. I think they're going to be a lot better than they were last season. I think Krong is going to be insane. You have the same DPS. You basically have the same support line, except you upgraded Chara with Neptuno. It's just an upgraded Charge, and I think that's going to be for the better. I don't want to speak too much on him, but I think Krong is going to be incredibly underrated. The Nero Happy Eileen show is going to continue on. I think Neptuno is going to shine on this team. Shu is going to be incredible, though. I think Shu's going to be the real star. But other than, like, they're just a good roster. They're just good. So we'll see if they can do better than that. At number 7, I have the Los Angeles Gladiators. Now, this is a team that I also want to put higher because mainly when people think of this team, the burning question mark is if Birdering can perform to his past self, right? And I think the coaching staff on this team can't allow that to happen, right? And I think Mir is going to be insane, right? I think Space and OGE is a nutty tank duo, possibly right now on paper one of the best ones in the league. And then you have Big Goose and Shaz, who have always been consistent and at a top level. I think the team is going to be good. The reason I have them at 7th and not at like 4th or something is because I think they're going to have early struggles. I think the team is going to struggle a little bit early on for like the first 2 or 3 months until they hit their stride, and then I think they're going to peak from there. I think in 3 months, don't be surprised if Gladiators is a top 3 team. That's all I'm going to say. Don't be surprised if it happens, and I think it will. But I think because of the early on struggles, they're going to be in 7th for the season. Number 6, I have the Philadelphia Fusion. Now, this is a team that I don't want to put in 6 because I don't like Philly, right? I'm just going to be honest. I'm not a Fusion fan. But even after that, they have a good roster. They have EQO Carpe, who's going to be really good. They have Ivy, who's also going to be really good. I think I said Hisu on... They have Hisu. Spitfire have Shui. Sorry, I messed that up back then. I will fix that. But they have Hisu, and then they have that one Doom player. And then for their tank line, they have shoot, I just forgot his name. Chipsa. They have Chipsa. And then their tank line, Fury, one of the best off tanks in the league by far. Probably not the best just because of his flexibility, but his diva is top, right? And then you have Poco, who's just going to be a bench player. And then you have Sato, who's going to be like, Sato's going to be good. I don't know. And then you come to the support line. And Alarm Funny Astro, like Coregasm. That's a crazy support line. I really like this support line. This is going to be an electric support line. I think Fusion are going to completely change their style. And they're going to be like a mega aggressive team because these supports are just like that. Alarm is incredibly talented. Funny Astro, incredibly talented. This is just going to be a good team. And I'm excited to watch them. At number 5, I have the Shanghai Dragons. Now, this team, it's gonna be a good team. Lip, Fleta, Diding, and DM. That's a very good DPS quadro. I think that's the way you see it. And they have Dia if they want the 5-piece in there. They could run a 5-man DPS lineup. That would be funny, but they're not going to do that. And then for the tank line, they have Stand 1, Fearless, Void, and Geguri. Void is incredibly underrated. The guy is pretty good. I think the reason people don't rate him is because he didn't play Sigma that well. And, you know, sometimes it takes time to learn Sigma. When I was an off-tank player, and it took me a long time to learn Sigma. So maybe it took Void a long time to learn Sigma. And then you have Fearless and Stand 1. Stand 1 is going to be solid. I think Fearless is a wild card. I think Fearless just needed the right team around him back then to do good, and he didn't have the right team. I think this is the right team for him to like absolutely pop off, right? Like, don't be surprised if this is the year of Fearless. And then for your support line, you have Luffy and Izuyaki, and then you have Lee Jae Gong, who's going to be a very solid main support as well. So all around, they have top players, but I just don't think they're going to be the best. And I don't know why. I think they can be the best, but I think these other teams are just too good. At number 4, I have the Vancouver Titans. Now, I'll preface by saying this. I don't like Vancouver Titans, right? I made a whole video on him on why it was a bad move to pick up Fissure, right? But the more I thought about it, right? The more and more I thought about it, I was like, what if Fissure is just the awakening of this team? Because so far, because I read a bunch of interviews with coaches on what they think of Bumper and stuff, and they said Bumper only worked because he was on this team, right? Bumper, in theory, is not a great main tank, right? But he only worked because of these players around him. Now imagine putting someone that was a top main tank in that situation, and how good could this roster be? I think they're going to have early struggles. That's why I have them at 4th. But I think this team with Fissure, if they play their cards right and they can become a team, like a family like they were, I would be scared. I think Fissure is a massive upgrade on paper over Bumper and Tizzy, but it's the burning question on if Vancouver can make it work out. And if Vancouver can make it work out, this is a title contending team. At number 3, I have the Atlanta Reign. Now, I really rate a lot of the players on this team. I think right now, my only burning questions, hard burning questions, is the flex support. You have Dogman and Kodak, and that's just maybe average. But then other than that, I think you have top players in every single role. First, DPS, we have Edison, Erster, Sharp, Baby Bay. Oh my god, that's so good on paper. That's crazy good on paper. And then you go to the tank line, you have Gator, who's going to be... I think Gator is going to be sick this season. You have Hawk coming in fresh out of Contenders. He just turned 18. He wants it. I think Fried is also very good. Fried was underrated last season, but I really like Fried. And then you have Pogba, who's going to be solid, just always. He's not going to be amazing. He's not going to be terrible, though. He's going to be that just hard rock that you need if he even gets played. And then you go to Massa, and Massa is Massa, I love Massa. He's one of the best main supports in my eyes. And then Fire is gonna be all right. But other than that, I think this team is just gonna do it. They're going to win a lot and maybe win the whole season. I don't think there's any hard weaknesses. If Dogman can play decent, especially in a Moira meta where flex support isn't the most important, I think this team is gonna be a lot better. But I think a lot of people are putting him 3, and I think that's a fair spot because these next 2 teams, just unbeatable. At number 2, for season power rankings, I have the San Francisco Shock. Now, in terms of power rankings, I will always have the Shock at number 1. The reason I have them at 2 in season rankings is because they're in the harder division. They're in the Pacific Division, and the Pacific Division's actually stacked with all the Chinese teams. You have Vancouver, you have Gladiators, right? All very good teams that can maybe take a game or 2 off of this team, right? Each. So I think Shock are, on paper, the best team in the league, and I think they will be that, but I think they're going to lose more games than New York because of the teams that they go against multiple times. So Shock, incredibly stacked roster. I don't know why you picked up ANS. That was kind of useless, but other than that, I think the roster is going to be really good. I just wish you had support backup. If you had 1 support backup, then I would be extremely confident, but even then, it's still just Violet Moth, Sinatra, or Rascal, or Architect, or Striker. Oh my god. And then you have Super Smurf Choyoben. That's a very good roster. Shock just keeps, the more I look at the roster, the more I love it. It's a very good roster. And at number 1 for season power rankings, I have the New York Excelsior. Very good roster. I think Hoppa is a massive upgrade over Meko in terms of playstyle. I think this team wanted to have that mega aggressive playstyle, but Meko, being a super passive player, just didn't let him do that. I think Mono, with a player like Hoppa on his side, can shine a lot. Jonak and Onimo are going to be just insane. Still a top 2 support duo, maybe top 2. maybe best. And then you have Who Are You, who's going to be really good. SBB, who's a solid leader. Libero, who is just that pure flex that you want on a team. And then Nene, who has the pop-off potential. It's just a very good roster, and I think they're going to have another very successful year. Let's see if they choke or not. And that'll do it for my season power rankings, or season placements, I guess. I had a lot of fun recording this. I'll throw my power rankings on the screen right now. This is what I feel going into these first few weeks, because some teams don't play some weeks. Atlanta doesn't play till week 4, so it's going to be weird for that. But we have a lot of the teams playing, so I'm excited. Overwatch League has finally started. It took way too long. As soon as I move, there's going to be so much Overwatch League videos you don't even know. But for now, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you do enjoy Overwatch League content, be sure to subscribe, and I'll see you next time. Peace.